This is Lawrence Watkins with the Black Financial Channel, and welcome to the Financial Juneteenth 5. These are my 5 favorite articles as it relates to Black finance, wealth, and business for today, October 7th, 2020. Let's go ahead and get started. All right. My first article of today comes from Yahoo News, and it was released today. And it says Ice Cube says Hollywood has been complacent in how Black people are treated in America. And this is a review of the recent episode of Red Table Talk. I'm not sure if it has been released or not yet, but it definitely has been recorded. But Ice Cube says, but in addition to Ice Cube's call for better schooling, healthcare, police reform to benefit Black communities throughout the country, he urged Hollywood to do a better job of representing Black people in a better light in an effort to mobilize them politically. His quote here says, Hollywood has been complacent in our treatment in this country. I think it is, or excuse me, I think kids learn how to treat us when they're watching shows. You learn, okay, when I become a cop, this is how I'm going to do them. And they should look to do things. To help us reverse that. Later on, Smith's family friend Cole, let me see, I believe his name is Tyler Cole, who is a musician. He states that in the industry, you're taught that, oh, if you're Black and you rap about violence and money, that's going to make you more money. Labels are going to want to sign you if you're talking about violence, Cole said. But how do we break that cycle? In response, Ice Cube mentioned we have to put pressure on these companies that we love. We watch their movies, we support them. It's time for them to pay back and help us to create better images. If you produce something great, then top shelf people will come. Some amount of Black people went to go see Black Panther as went to go see Straight Outta Compton, Ice Cube added. We need a place where we can get those made so we can give our people at least a choice. So the article goes on and talk a little bit more about the conversation. And I just want to end with this particular quote from Q. It states here, while the group acknowledged the difficulties of apologizing for mistakes made long ago, Ice Cube said in response, "Okay, you're not your ancestors, but if you're keeping their systems in place that's keeping us in the same positions that we were in the 60s or before, you're going to have to acknowledge that you are perpetuating a system, and it's the same system that held us back." Everyone, I urge you to go check out this Red Table Talk episode. I think it's going to be awesome. I'm going to check it out whenever it's released on Facebook as well. And we want to give a shout out to our friend at the Black Financial Channel and Boyce Watkins Enterprises, Ice Cube. He's doing a lot of great things for the community, and we appreciate the work and service that he's doing. The next article comes from Bloomberg, and I believe it was released last night or yesterday afternoon. It states Microsoft, Wells Fargo diversity plans draw U.S. labor inquiry. Software maker banks say, or excuse me, software maker in the bank say office that oversees federal contracts is probing whether hiring targets violate civil rights law. So it goes on to state both these companies, so Microsoft and Wells Fargo, which have both pledged to double their ranks of Black leaders, receive letters from the U.S. Labor Department asking how their efforts comply with laws limiting the consideration of race in employment. The company said in June, I believe it's Microsoft, the company said in June that it would double the number of Black and African American managers, senior contributors, and senior leaders in the US by 2025. Wells Fargo, earlier this year, the bank rolled out a series of goals, including a 5-year target for doubling its roster of Black leaders who accounted for 6% of senior management at the time. And this article in this situation shows that Donald Trump is really trying to play to its base in trying to, I guess, get race taken out of the conversation, even though it's an important part of the conversation as it relates to government contracts. The federal outreach to Microsoft is an example of the Trump administration's opposition to many programs meant to fight discrimination against the Black community and improve the poor track record of many U.S. companies in hiring retaining, and promoting Black employees. There was actually a quote in here from, I believe, a former person who worked in this office, so the U.S. Department of Justice Civil Rights Division under President Obama. So just a different administration with President Obama. So Samuel Bagnestos, I believe that's how you pronounce his name, stated, "It just seems like a perversion of everything this agency is supposed to be about. The OFCCP was set up to enforce affirmative action among federal contractors," he said. "Microsoft action to address its lack of Black leaders. It's a kind of thing that in prior administrations, the Department of Labor had been telling federal contractors that they should be doing." So it shows you the power of the executive branch. So that's one thing. And also raises some questions for me regarding both Microsoft and also Wells Fargo. So with Microsoft, I'm wondering because of their stances, are they being punished from the federal government and the Trump administration? So, for example, with the TikTok deal, where TikTok was forced to sell their company, they ended up, I believe, selling to Oracle and Walmart. Was Microsoft taking out of the running because of stuff that they were doing with, I guess, diversity and not really aligning with Trump's view of the world? And then it raises a different question regarding Wells Fargo. So Wells Fargo, if you have been watching the FJT 5 segments the last couple of weeks, they've been going through it as it relates to a lot of Black women leaving the company, a lot of Black employees feeling like they aren't supported. So this article makes me question, how serious are they when it comes to increasing the ranks of diversity, or will they fold at the first sign of trouble? Like what we see here in this particular article. So that's something to just watch out for the coming weeks. The next article comes from USA Today, and it states exclusive. So YouTube announces Black-focused content slate, including HBCU celebration and more. So YouTube is announcing their global slate today. The Black Slate, I guess that's what we'll call it, will include stories focused on family dinners, colleges, racial justice, and jail expansion. So Malik Ducard, which is YouTube's Vice President of Learning, Impact, Family, Film, TV, and Health. That is a lot of responsibility, it looks like. Is talking about the YouTube Black Voices Fund. It's going to be a $100 million fund meant to amplify Black voices and perspectives on YouTube over the course of the next few years. It states, with these new resources, we really wanted to invest with intentionality, Malik stated. So he also stated, we wanted to put our money behind creating and supporting fresh narratives that emphasize the intellectual power, authenticity, dignity, and really the joy of Black voices. Later on, Suzanne Daniels, who's also a part of Google and a part of this initiative, she stated, it won't just be about the talent on the screen, but it will also be about the talent above the line and below the line, she stated. I think it's important. It's an important distinction and an important opportunity that we're focused on as well. So we'll see what comes out of this. Later on in the article, they talked about some of the different pieces of content that they actually have on Slate. So it looks like there might be 5 or 6 different pieces of content right here. So check that out in the link in the description on USA Today. The next article comes from Forbes. This is actually an article from the United Kingdom. So it says research from 10 by 10. I guess that's how you say it. I don't know if it's 10x10 or 10 by 10. I'm going to go with 10 by 10. So research from 10 by 10 and Google reveals Black-owned businesses more likely to hire diverse teams. So this is, like I said, it's out of the UK. So groundbreaking new research carried out by 10 by 10, a group of early stage Black founders and venture capitalists have launched the Black Report in partnership with Google. The report surveyed 60 Black-owned businesses in the UK, asking questions about team composition, funding, and problems that they face. One of the key takeaways from the report was that, on average, these ventures tend to have more diversity across teams, both in terms of race and also gender. So there's a quote here from Andy Davis, who was the co-founder of 10 by 10. He says we felt it was important to create the Black Report as we wanted to start painting a picture of Black founders, a growing population with incredible value. The diversity stats are particularly interesting as we know from previous studies that there is a huge business case for hiring diverse teams. Black founders could become key in closing the national gap in regards to the lack of diversity in business. And Marta Krupinska, the head of Google for Startups, also had a quote: "Having spent years in the startup world, I've remained shocked at how little we understand and do to support Black founders, despite obvious challenges they face in accessing funding and the networks critical to success." Yeah, and then later on in the article, they gave some stats in regards to what the report found. 32% of investors were Black and 25% of investors were female. 46% of businesses surveyed were founded by women. Yeah, so yeah, please check out this and the other stats from Forbes, from the 10 by 10 report, and I'll try to find that report for you and include it in tomorrow's or some broadcast later on in the week. The last article is actually an opinion piece by the New York Times. And let's see here. Yeah, so I guess it's one of those business adjacent articles. It's not specifically about business, but it says what we can learn from the rise and fall of political Blackness. And this once again is talking about Black people in Britain, so the United Kingdom. And it's talking about the expansiveness or the contraction of the term Blackness. And I thought this was a very interesting piece in regards to how we should be using the term Blackness, or the lessons that we could learn from the 70s and 80s in the UK, and how it's applying today when we talk about things like Kamala Harris, and President Obama beforehand, in terms of what Black actually means. So depending on who they were trying to find relationships and coalitions with, that's how they determine what was Black, right? So during its roughly 2 decades of prominence, the political Blackness movement, taking note of how Britishness had routinely been equated with whiteness, was especially devoted to the Afro-Asian alliance. So it talks about that alliance. And then later on, let me see if I can find it here. There are basically 2 paragraphs to me that summarize the entire article. The first says, reflecting on political Blackness then should encourage us to retrain some of our reflexes. The identity group that we invoke should be right-sized to our needs and aims. Sometimes we'll want to contract a category for purposes of analysis. Sometimes we'll have reason to expand a category for purposes of solidarity. And then the article ended stating political Blackness may have had its day, but we're still coming to grips with essential insight. Blackness, like whiteness, has never not been political. So I found this to be an interesting think piece in regards to race, but it still relates to business and what's going on in society right now. So that's about it for today. Let me know what you thought about the articles. Let me know what you think about Ice Cube's statements on Red Table Talk, as well as any thoughts that you have about any of the other 4 articles that I've shared today. Before you get out of here, please make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the Black Financial Channel. And as I stated before, this is just a trial run of Financial Juneteenth 5. So in the comments, if you like this type of segment, please let us know. And we'll continue to do it. If not, in about 6 weeks or 5 weeks now, we will shelve this if this is not something that you all want to see. But on behalf of the Black Financial Channel, my name is Lawrence Watkins. Take care, be blessed, and have a wonderful day. All right, bye-bye.